Welcome back to JavaScript The Basics. In this lesson, we're going to cover strings. What is a string? Strings are a data type used to represent text and are wrapped in either a single or double quotes. A string is one of 6 JavaScript primitives, along with numbers, booleans, null, undefined, and the newer addition of symbol to ES6. We'll give primitives a further look in upcoming lessons. Let's look at 2 lines of JavaScript code. As mentioned, this is the same value assigned to the variable. Single and double quotes return the same value. Best practice is to find one convention and stick with it. If you're on a team or working on a project, as you further develop your JavaScript skills, you may find that there is a style guide you are following which will determine which approach that you take. Make sure you don't mix them. Putting a single quote and a double quote around Joe is going to give us an error. For the rest of this lesson, and for most of this course, we will try to stick with the single quote convention when possible. Using these quotes will turn anything into a string. We can use the type of operator in our DevTools console on these values to see what type they are. Now, let's try wrapping these different data types in quotes and ask the JavaScript interpreter to tell us what type they now are. We'll start with a number, boolean, and undefined. And when we wrap these primitive data types in quotes, they are now strings that contain characters. We'll spend the rest of this lecture looking at quotes within strings, special characters, the string property .length, and a sample string method. What do we do if we want to have a quote within our string? Our JavaScript interpreter is going to have some problems with this. Let's look at a couple examples. If our quote matches what we use to enclose the string, we will receive an error in this case. We can solve this in a couple ways. One solution is to make sure that your single or double quote don't match what is containing the whole string. That means using double quotes on this top example to create this string and using a single quote on the inside. For our other example, we will use single quotes on the outside and double quotes on the inside. There is another solution. It's the escape or backslash character. The backslash escape character turns special characters into string characters. In our previous example, we saw that the JavaScript interpreter sees quotes as special characters, so we have to be careful how to use them, or we might wind up with an error. However, if we place a backslash escape character, then the interpreter simply sees them as strings. We can use single quotes for the whole expression by putting the escape character before the single quote within the string. We can use double quotes for the whole expression by putting the escape character before both the double quotes within the string. There are a number of other things that the escape character will be used to work for with special characters. Hopefully, this gives you a taste of how it works. Now, let's look at the string property of .length. The length of a string can be found by using the length property. The property is available to any string you create. This will become a handy feature as you continue to grow as a JavaScript developer. Let's look at this line of code. We've declared a variable named greeting, and we've assigned it the value of a string saying it's good to meet you. All we need to do is attach the length property to this variable, and we will get the length of the string. Greeting.length returns 22. Now that we have looked at a property of strings, let's look at one of the built-in methods that all strings you create will inherit. We'll talk about methods more in later lessons where we look at functions. Let's start by looking at the toUpperCase method. And the way that you will know that something is a method versus a property is by the invocation call of the toParentheses. The length property does not have the parentheses after it, so we know that it is not a method or a function. Let's begin by setting up a greeting variable. Our greeting will be a string that says, "Good to see you." Let's put this method to work on our greeting variable and store it to a new variable called shoutGreeting. We are going to attach the toUpperCase method to the end of our greeting variable and assign it to our new shoutGreeting variable. Now, let's look at the shoutGreeting in our console and we get "Good to see you." That's all we have for this lesson on strings. Thanks for joining me in JavaScript the Basics, and we'll see you in the lab.